Touchdown!
Sixers,
It's good!
and Flyers.
Oh, big save by Carter Hart!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
The NBA Finals are over and the NBA offseason starts now. Josh Hennig here on Game Night, 97.3 ESPN. We got a busy show ahead of us tonight. We'll talk NBA and Sixers offseason with Bryan Toporek from Forbes Sports, NBA writer, and Liberty Ballers writer and contributor coming up around 6:15 tonight. Plus, a little bit later in the show, we will talk with the winners of this year's Schoppy Awards presented by Prime Events. The Bill Schoppy Memorial Award goes to the top male and female senior high school athletes of the season. Of course, the Cape Atlantic League, they've been giving out these awards, no should say, every year. We will talk with the athletes from the award ceremony a little bit later in the hour. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. That is the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. So, NBA Finals are in the books. What does that mean? Well, it means a couple things. One, we have the perfect example of how the 76ers can win a championship with Joel Embiid. We also have a clear vision now of what this NBA offseason is going to be about. Because we all know that in sports, teams have a long history of basically copycat. This team did this, and they were successful. You have now had two of the last three NBA champions, all are won with the star player, the centerpiece of that team, being a big man. Not a traditional big man, but a big man. This year, it was Nikola Jokic. And 2 years ago, it was Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that you need a foreign player to win a championship. I'm not crazy, okay? But you do have a situation where it is very obvious that you can win a championship with a non-traditional big man. Joel Embiid is a non-traditional big man. Now, I will not go as far to say that Embiid is like Jokic or Embiid is like Giannis, because all three players have very different styles. Just because they all can see eye to eye with each other doesn't mean they play the same style of basketball. But we learned last night that when you saw Jokic win that championship, and you know he was in the same draft as Joel Embiid, when you know that Jamal Murray was in the same draft as Ben Simmons, when you know Michael Porter Jr. was drafted and sat out for a year before he ever became a contributor, recovering from an injury, and when you know that Aaron Gordon's acquisition changed the entire dynamics of that team to the point where it negated Nikola Jokic and his defensive liabilities, because Gordon is such a high-level, weak-side defender. All of those things came to reality. So it's not far-fetched to believe the Philadelphia 76ers can build a championship team around Joel Embiid. Now, look, I am not going to, lose you and Denver Nuggets basically 8 years to get to the NBA Finals with Jokic. It's not like they were there multiple times. The problem with a team like Denver is, for as great as Jokic was in this series, and he had a statistical all-time postseason, he never got to an NBA Finals without Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Bruce Brown and Christian Brown. Never did it. To me, that says the Denver Nuggets kept trying to find the right pieces to put around this guy until they got it right. And maybe it behooves the 76ers to do the same. Because whether the sidekick has been James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid has never been out of the second round. So if Embiid has never been out of the second round, the priority has to be building the team to get out of the second round. And Nick Nurse, the new Sixers head coach, understands that and said this on the Hoop Collective podcast.
I see each season as kind of its own entity, and what's happened in the last whatever how many years will have no bearing in my mind, and that's my message going forward. And that's two things. You got to acknowledge it. Like, we're going to get judged on how we play in the playoffs, right? I don't think 45, 55, 65 is going to matter that much. It's going to be, how far you go in the playoffs. So I think you acknowledge that as a fact, and you be mindful of that. And that means, you kind of got your short-term goals, but there is a plan to get through the entire season and be ready to be really good at the playoff time.
You heard him say it there. You have to treat them like they're two different seasons. And the problem is the 76ers organization has done a great job at building a team for the regular season, but has not fully equipped the team for the postseason. And as of right now, there is no guarantee that if you bring back any of the players from last year, that you are going to get the results that you want. Look, I know James Harden led the league in assists, but he's getting older. And yes, he won you 2 games, and he played at a very high level for a third game, but he didn't play well in the other 4 games. So is James Harden just a guy who can give you a couple games but can't give you all the games? If you believe that James Harden can help you win 4 postseason games in every round, you bring him back. If you don't have an assurance in your heart of hearts that James Harden can be the James Harden was in the regular season and in the postseason, you had to let him go. Because as you saw with the Denver Nuggets kept trying different players with Jokic. 8 years of putting different pieces around the guy. And they finally got it right. To me, that means that there is hope for the Sixers to do with Embiid what the Nuggets have done with Jokic. We'll get more into the NBA offseason coming up next with Bryan Toporek from Forbes Sports, NBA writer and Liberty Ballers contributor, right here with me, Josh Hennig, here on 97.3 ESPN FM and a 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle.
You haven't downloaded the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app? Well, go get it now to follow all the Philly sports teams at 97.3ESPN.com. Powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
No matter the make, no matter the mileage, no matter what you owe, Matt Blatt Kia wants your vehicle today. We need to replenish our inventory, so we need your vehicle, no matter what your situation is. Even if you're stuck in a loan or a lease, Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you released. Get cash for your car today. Even if you don't buy a car from us and don't pay high interest rates, get to Matt Blatt Kia and drive home a brand new Kia with super low APR financing and 0 down payment on every new Kia in stock. Plus, with Matt Blatt Kia's certified lenders, we finance your future, not your past. Even first-time buyers can drive with peace of mind with our exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy. So bring any trade during Kia's summer sales event.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkia.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer except for licensing, registration, taxes, expires, and 753. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Of course, I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? So, you've got an oil change coming up. Consider STP Conventional to save on motor oil for your everyday vehicle. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP oil filter for only $26.99. Get the complete job done at the right price at any of our 6,200 stores or on AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Are you tired of choosing between fine dining with stuffy, uptight vibes or settling for a casual meal with subpar cuisine? Hey, it's Mike Gill. Trio North Wildwood solves this dilemma by offering the perfect blend of both. Our cozy, relaxed atmosphere pairs seamlessly with chef-inspired gourmet dishes that will have our taste buds dancing. Don't sacrifice quality for comfort any longer. Book your reservations on Resi for Trio North Wildwood now. Trio North Wildwood, 700 New Jersey Avenue, North Wildwood, TrioNW.com.
Meet Joe A,
Hi.
Joe B,
Hello.
and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect. Support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase. Make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Lowe's knows the best deals for dad. That's why this Father's Day, you can shop our best gifts from the brands he loves, like Craftsman, for less. Right now, get a V20 drill or impact driver kit for just $69. And save $50 on a V20 string trimmer and blower combo kit, now only $99. Shop Father's Day deals today, in-store and online. Lowe's knows dads. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 6/14 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Hey, Jay, can you finish that induction range installation tomorrow?
Orders have really amped up at Nate's Electric.
We need to finish installing it first in Maine. Did we hear back from the grocery chain?
It's no shock he needs electricians, like yesterday.
Smart fridge. Everybody wants one of those these days.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Philly Sports Trips is your #1 location for all trips for Philadelphia sports, offering premium travel and tailgating experiences. Visit them at Philly Sports.
With Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by Jenkins and Sons. Why not trust somebody with over 40 years of experience? Don't call the drain guy and the heater guy and the plumbing guy. Just call 609-641-6440 for whatever you need in your home. Trust Jenkins, 609-641-6440. Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning is online at jenkinsandsons.com. GameNight.com. The NBA Finals are done. Now, what is next for the NBA offseason? We'll talk now with Bryan Toporek. Of course, you get his coverage of Forbes Sports, NBA writer, Liberty Ballers contributor, and of course, the co-host of the NBA podcast. Joining me now on 97.3 ESPN. Bryan, welcome back. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. Thanks as always for having me.
So I want to start with this. For you, what was the biggest takeaway from the Denver Nuggets winning the NBA Finals that Daryl Morey and the 76ers need to learn?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think it might go one step higher than Morey. I think it goes up to ownership. And I think the Nuggets demonstrated the value of patience. And we haven't really seen that from the Sixers over the past decade, if we're being honest. I mean, a lot, they committed to the process 10 years ago or 9 years ago or so. And then, kind of short circuited it halfway through or 3/4 of the way through. And then just kind of been one quick fix, big name, flashy signing, big trade after another. And the Nuggets have just kind of stood by their group. They believed in Jokic and Murray. Those guys have been together for 6 or 7 years now. They've been able to develop with Michael Porter Jr., who's been there for, close to a half decade now as well. It's not to say that they didn't round out their supporting cast, with the Aaron Gordon trade a couple of years ago, the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope trade this past summer, signing Bruce Brown. So, hitting on the margins is really important as well, because they, throughout their playoff run, they don't win a championship without Bruce Brown or KCP, neither of whom were on the team last year. They don't win a championship without Christian Brown, their rookie that, they got with not even a lottery pick this year. So, I don't know that the Sixers are going to be able to replicate the Nuggets formula. I frankly think they aren't going to be able to at this point. They're too far down the road that they've gone. But, I think the Nuggets are kind of the ideal. If you're looking at a team building model, that's what you should aspire for.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the big part of the Nuggets is, for all the talk about Jokic, guess what? You don't get assists if your teammates don't make shots. And let's be realistic. You people, for as much as people like you and I talked about Embiid's a better defensive player than Jokic, the reason why Jokic's defense has been negated is because you could argue Aaron Gordon might be the best weak side defender in the entire NBA. He literally erases some of Jokic's flaws out there. So you could argue that Gordon and Murray are the perfect matches for Jokic, who helped get him to an NBA final so he could go out there and perform the way he did. And the problem with the Sixers is the organization has not gotten the perfect partners for Embiid.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment. I mean, Aaron Gordon, I can't think of a guy who's able to, go out and guard Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and then also go off for, I think 27 points in that game for the finals. Jimmy Butler, he's guarding as well, who's not going to cost a max contract. And, he's earning like half of a max contract, basically. It was an unbelievable find from them a couple off seasons ago. And, the Sixers, regardless of what James Harden does this offseason, could have an opportunity to find a player like that potentially. Maybe DeAnthony Melton is that player for them. Who knows? But I agree that they've got to figure out really. Now they have a new coach in Nick Nurse, so figure out what characteristics he looks for, and then build a roster around that. And if you're committed to Joel Embiid moving forward, you got to continue to build around Joel Embiid. Find guys who make sense next to him.
So are the Nuggets the new Western Conference team to beat? Or do you, Bryan Toporek, think that this was a 1-year situation?
Oh, no, I don't think it's a 1-year situation. Are they the team to beat? They're one of them. I'm not going to say that they are tiers above everyone else. We'll see what happens this offseason. They have the benefit of having all 5 of their starters under contract for next year, which a lot of contenders around the league are looking at some pretty big changes potentially
Right.
So, the continuity helped them already. It's only going to continue to help them next year. We'll see if they're able to retain Bruce Brown this year. He has a player option that he could decline. And, if some team comes calling with $15-20 million a year, I don't know if the Nuggets are going to be able to retain him. We'll see. The Bucks were in this situation with Bobby Portis a couple of years ago. So if he does stay, it will be for less money. And it's because he found a great role and, won a championship and has the promise of a bigger payday down the line. But, the Phoenix Suns sound like they are hunting for some big moves this offseason. The Lakers really revitalized their season at the trade deadline. We'll see what they do this summer. I think those are two of the big threats. The Warriors, you got to give them respect because they won a championship a year ago. And we'll see. They've got some big decisions to make this offseason as well. The Clippers are still out there. If they can stay healthy, one of these years, it feels like every year we say we're due for a healthy Clippers playoff run and a healthy Joel Embiid playoff run. And maybe it never happens, but if it ever does, those teams should be right in the mix as well.
Talk with Bryan Toporek. Check out his work in Forbes Sports covering the NBA. Also contributor for Liberty Ballers. And check out the podcast, the NBA podcast, on wherever you get your podcasting platforms. Bryan, so now, obviously, for a lot of people, it's off-season mode, full throttle now. So you mentioned his name earlier. Let's get to that guy, James Harden. As of June 13th, what are you reading in between the lines and the tea leaves of all of this malarkey going on?
Yeah, I'm reading that the 4-year max contract offer that I think he is hoping to get might not materialize either from Philly or Houston. Kelly Iko of The Athletic, there was a story that went up today on Hoops Hype where he was speaking with Michael Scotto and said, he doesn't think the Rockets have the appetite for that kind of a deal. They're trying to get, they could have upwards of $60 million in cap space, but they want to get multiple impact free agents. And he's like, if you're paying James Harden $47 million a year, it's really going to limit your ability to add, a Brook Lopez or a Dylan Brooks or, some of the other names that they're targeting. So, it seems like the Sixers might be able to get him back. Yeah. I don't know. I still don't know what he's going to end up doing. I think all of this stuff about, he's torn, quote unquote, about whether to go back. I think he's still angling for the biggest offer. It's unclear to me which team is going to give it to him right now or, how many years. I think that's probably just as important as the money. Like if Houston's willing to go, a full max, but for only 2 years, and Philly's not willing to go full max, but is willing to go 3 or 4 years, that could make the difference as well.
Sign and trade James Harden. How realistic if you had to put a percentage on it?
To Houston, pretty low, just because they have the cap space to sign him outright. So the Sixers would have to incentivize them. The goal, if he does end up going to Houston, Philly should want it to be a sign and trade so you can get a massive trade exception and accept someone back into that. But, we saw this with Boston and Charlotte a couple of years ago with Gordon Hayward, where they had the Celtics had to send 2 second-round picks to the Hornets along with Gordon Hayward to get that trade exception. And the Sixers don't have a ton of second-round picks to trade away. So I don't know, what they would use to incentivize the Rockets into that, or if, Harden goes to Tillman Fertitta and says, hey, I've got this relationship with Morey, like out of the goodness of your own heart, can you please just make this a sign and trade? I don't know if that's realistic. If he does want to go to Phoenix, Ramona Shelburne of ESPN mentioned that as a possibility. That would almost have to be a sign and trade unless he picks up the player option. So I think those are probably the two most realistic non-Philly landing spots for him. And it just depends on which team he ends up choosing.
When it comes to Harden, should Harden be back in a Sixers uniform? Like, should Sixer fans want him back? Like, because my position has been, I'm done with the Harden experiment. I want to move on. But I've been criticized by saying, look, James Harden won you 2 games being James Harden. Maybe the next coach needs to let him be more Harden and less facilitator. My response is, but you still lost 4 games. And 2 of those games, Harden came up very small in at the end of that series. So to me, it doesn't matter he led the league in assists in the regular season. It doesn't matter that he scored over 40 points in 2 games. For me, I look at Harden as part of the reason why you lost. Am I wrong in that assessment?
No, I mean, you're absolutely not wrong in that assessment. Everyone came up short in Game 7 in particular. I think there's no good answer here, especially, if it's 4-year max or he walks, I say you should prefer him to walk, just because a 4-year max really, really, really could age poorly. And we're going into this new collective bargaining agreement this summer that makes it a lot tougher to build around, more than 2 guys on mega contracts. And Tyrese Maxey is also up for an extension this summer that's going to kick in next year. So, I think that the fundamental question that the Sixers have to ask themselves is a big 3 sustainable under this new CBA? And if not, then, are you choosing between Harden and Maxey at some point in the next year? If you think it can be sustainable and you aren't, you don't have to give Harden the full max. Maybe you get him back around the same price or a little bit higher than what he got this past season, then I think it's much more doable over the long term. I think ultimately if he walks, they're still not going to have cap space this summer. So if he goes to Houston and it's not a sign-in trade, the Sixers are going to have a $12.2 million mid-level exception to find his replacement, and that's it. Like that's not a good solution either. There's a way for them to potentially have a max cap slot in 2024. I don't really think it's realistic. You would have to hold off on a Tyrese Maxey extension, which I don't think you should be doing if you're the Sixers. So I think, it's probably there's not a right answer here. Both situations contain some potential downside. If you got Harden back on a long-term deal and he shows up short in the playoffs again, and you're stuck with him for 2 or 3 more years, and there's no easy way out. But can you afford to go to Joel Embiid fresh off an MVP season after watching his chief rival just win a championship and say sorry, Joe, we're not going to re-sign your co-star. And we're going to treat this as kind of a punt year. We'll see if we can do something big in 2024. That seems like a tough sell as well.
What was your take from Doc Rivers talking extensively about the Sixers? I mean, listen to him on the Bill Simmons podcast. It made you think, wow, this Doc Rivers is pretty thoughtful and intelligent and well-spoken. And it's this guy must have been really unhappy as the Sixers head coach talking to the media. I'm not saying that he hates the Sixers. He obviously has some very interesting things to say in the pod, but what were your takeaways from that? Because he had a lot to say. I didn't expect him to go on for that long with Bill Simmons. I mean, how much was Bill Simmons paying him under the table to talk that long?
Yeah, I found his comments about Harden in particular really interesting. Where
he said he was a challenge the coach.
Yeah, and that he wants to play a certain way, and he's always played this way, and he's adapted his game to some extent. But Doc, I think, correctly pointed out that Harden doesn't really move off the ball that much, and that is what, more than anything else, the shooting is what makes Steph Curry, but he wouldn't be as dangerous if he's not relocating off the ball and, you have to chase him around screens and he's got that quick fire trigger. Harden doesn't have that. And it makes it easier to game plan against him in the playoffs. So I actually thought that assessment was brutally honest. I wouldn't be surprised if, Doc said that behind closed doors, and we've heard some rumblings of tension between Doc and Harden that, they kept honestly pretty quiet throughout the regular season and even up and through the playoffs. It was really after his dismissal that this started to come out. So I think that was spot on. And if Harden does come back next year, I think that's probably one of the biggest questions is, can Nick Nurse get him to buy in to even further adapting his style of play because you watch the Nuggets, and I mean, they are just in constant motion. And you compare it to the Sixers, and it's like these are two completely different offenses. Like the Sixers just let teams off the hook by, kind of just everyone's in their positions or along the perimeter. And, they said like Joel Embiid likes to know where guys are going to be. So when he gets double teamed, he just knows instantly, okay, I'm kicking it out to this guy, kicking it out to this guy. I understand that, but at the same time, like, I think they need to integrate more motion into their offense, and that probably starts with James Harden.
All right, Bryan Toporek from Forbes Sports NBA writer. Of course, he is a contributor for Liberty Ballers as well. I'm going to give you a few names, and you are going to tell me and the audience if this name is legitimate or not, and if it makes sense for the Sixers. Okay? Because I mean, by legitimate or not is, there are people out there who go on NBA 2K or on the NBA trade machine and they try to do stuff, but then it doesn't always work that way in reality. So I figure I come to you with this. You spend a lot of your time, for better or for worse, studying these things. So first of all, the first popular name I'll throw at you is Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, I think technically possible. I wrote about at Liberty Ballers, so there's a full explanation there. Two easiest paths to get him. One, James Harden walks, you get the trade exception from Houston. You can just absorb him right into that. Maybe you send something back as part of a sign and trade to Toronto, but you often don't need to send back equivalent value in sign and trades, as we saw when the Sixers got Josh Richardson for Jimmy Butler. How'd that turn out? So that's one option. Or, if you don't get the trade exception, Tobias Harris, $39.3 million. Like he's the salary that would have to go out in that deal, whether it's to Toronto, maybe they just want a roster of nothing but power forwards, or you turn it into a 3-team deal where Tobias goes elsewhere and that team sends something to Toronto, and then Toronto sends VanVleet to the Sixers. So technically possible. And I mean, some Raptors beat writers have, seemed to hint that he is open to a reunion with Nick Nurse.
Damian Lillard.
That one I struggle to see. I don't see what the Sixers, how they can beat other teams' packages. I mean, it would have to be Tobias, Maxey. They have one first-round pick that they're allowed to trade. So one first-round pick. Like, are you including DeAnthony Melton in that deal? And if so, like, do you have a team left at that point? I just, between how much they would have to send out to get him, how easily another team could outbid them, and, whether they would be a contender once the dust settles, I think they're probably looking elsewhere, and I think they should be.
Bradley Beal.
So I wrote about him as well at Liberty Ballers. He's an interesting case because the Wizards gave him a no-trade clause. In all of their infinite wisdom, they gave him a no-trade clause, which means he can dictate where he goes. If he decides, like, I want to go to Philly and only Philly, and I'm not going to waive my no-trade clause for any other team, then Philly can kind of set the terms. Like, I'm not convinced that you need to trade Tyrese Maxey in that scenario. Maybe you get just Tobias and DeAnthony Melton. Maybe you don't even have to include the pick. Maybe you do. Maybe you include Jaden Springer.
Maybe we need to trade Melton. Maybe you trade somebody else. I don't know.
Yeah. It's very, I mean, Beal is in the second year of this 5-year contract. The Wizards just had a new team president take over. He spoke with Josh Robbins of The Athletic recently and, basically said, like, the only thing I can guarantee is that we're not going to be an overnight title contender. So if these guys like Beal, Porzingis, Kyle Kuzma, if they want to contend right away, like, we need to have some conversations because they probably need to go elsewhere. So it wouldn't shock me if he just wants out of Beal's contract and, looks at Tobias as, one of the biggest expiring contracts available this offseason is like his get out of jail free card, basically. I think they'll have to include something else of value, but I would draw the line at Maxey. I would not include Tyrese Maxey in a Bradley Beal deal.
I would agree with you on that for sure. We'll talk more about these different names as the NBA offseason continues. Follow him on Twitter at Toporek. Check out his aforementioned coverage with Liberty Ballers and Forbes Sports. He is Bryan Toporek, who joined me here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Bryan, appreciate you making the time today.
Anytime, Josh. Thank you.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up next, we will tell you about the winners of the Bill Schoppy Award winners for the high school sports scene. Of course, the Bill Schoppy Memorial Awards go to the male and female senior high school athletes of the year. We'll tell you about who the finalists were, who the winners are, coming up next here on 97.3 ESPN. And we'll get to your text just a little bit later. I see Sam in Avalon, as well as there it is, AJ from Courthouse. Get to you guys coming up in just a bit here on 97.3 ESPN.
It's the Stanley Cup Final on Sports USA, and we're in Vegas as the Florida Panthers come back to town to face off with the Golden Knights. The Knights have Aiden Hill defending the Fortress.
Open man, Montour, high slot. Whoa! Save! Aiden Hill!
The Panthers will try to scratch and claw their way to a win with Kachuk and Verhaeghe. It's Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. Panthers at the Knights, tonight on your home for the Stanley Cup Final, Sports USA.
Exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's sports leader.
Powerball is now at $340 million. With the jackpot win, you could have the power to do just about anything. Take a chance because anything can happen in Jersey.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to start getting conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Let's be real. Mopping is a hassle. You have to fill the bucket, pushing a wet, heavy mop around, then cleaning the mop when you're done so it doesn't grow bacteria. A hassle on top of a hassle. Try Swiffer Wet Jet. With Swiffer Wet Jet, you start with a fresh pad and cleaning solution every time. And when you're done, you just toss the pad. Swiffer Wet Jet, the faster, easier, cleaner way to clean your floors.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, trunk lids, license plate holders, and headlights. They've got lots of headlights. When you need parts, get it right the first time with eBay Guaranteed Fit. When you see the check, you know that part's going to fit. eBay Motors. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Wendy's Strawberry Frosty is back for the summer. Because if it's summertime, it's Frosty time. Beach time, Frosty time. Tea time, Frosty time. Me time, Frosty time. Treat yourself to Wendy's Strawberry Frosty this summer and make time for Frosty time. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's. Now open till midnight or later.
Limited time only. Participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary.
With GMF financing to qualify buyers excludes Corvette.
Everybody knows there's no beating Bennett because we sell new Chevys at true GM. Other guys, Bennett doesn't sell at MSRP, and they certainly never sell over MSRP. Because at Bennett, we take pride being known as the only area dealer to sell at the true GM supplier employee price. Plus, Bennett also gives you all the rebates. Not one or the other. Bennett gives you both. There's no beating Bennett. Plus, Bennett's got financing as low as 1.9%. Looking for used? Bennett pays a minimum $8,000 for any trade towards any pre-owned in stock. I know you're thinking Bennett will never give me $8,000 for my old clunker. Try us. Bennett doesn't care if it's all dented and rusty. We don't even care if it runs. Just get it here for at least $8,000. A lot more if it's in nice shape. And Bennett's non-commissioned sales team is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN.
Josh
and the
Hennig
free
here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. Of course, today was announced the Billy Schoppy Memorial Awards. The female finalists for this year's awards. Of course, every year they are awarded to the top male and female senior high school athletes. The female finalists for this year's award were Maddie Abbott of Holy Spirit High School, Quinera Cherry Montague of Atlantic City, Drew Coyle of Our Lady of Mercy, Sierra Demoro of Middle Township, Leah Howard of Millville High School, Macy Jaquette of St. Joe's of Hamilton, Carly Murphy of Wildwood Catholic, Kira Murray from Holy Spirit, Emma Peretti from Hamilton High School, Tori Villette from Ocean City High School, Carly Volkman from Our Lady of Mercy, and Maka Wakaka of Absagami Regional. And the winner of this year's Billy Schoppy Memorial Award for the top female senior high school athlete in the Cape Atlantic League is Emma Peretti, and she joins me right now on 97.3 ESPN. Emma, congratulations. How are you feeling at the end of your senior year?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really happy with, how my past 4 years at high school, went. And I'm so excited to move on to college and, to move on to bigger things.
Now, before we get to those bigger things, let's talk about some of the things you did do in high school, because for some athletes, they play one sport. Some athletes, they play multiple sports. You were an athlete who played multiple sports. First of all, talk to me about being a goaltender and having the distinction of having 400 career saves as a soccer goalie. That's no small feat.
No, it's not. Being a goalie, it's crazy because nobody understands what it's like unless you are a goalie at some point in your life. It really is indescribable. I mean, it feels like all the pressure in the world is on you, standing back in that net. Because, you have your whole team in front of you. If they mess up, they always know there's somebody behind them to maybe clean it up for them. But for me, I can't make any mistakes, back there. So it is a lot of pressure. And I think dealing with that pressure has really shaped me into the athlete I am today.
You mentioned about pressure. Talk to me about how you think handling that pressure is going to help you as you move forward in life, because obviously a lot of the things that you learn in high school are things you carry with you for the rest of your life.
Yes, definitely. And, especially when you come and join the workforce or even still being a collegiate athlete, you're going to find yourself in high pressure situations. And I think that my ability to go about these situations, just, cool, collective, and at ease, I think that's really going to help me address these situations with, a good mindset.
I like that attitude there. Emma Peretti joining us from Hamilton High School, the Bill Schoppy Memorial Award winner for the female senior high school athlete of the year for the Cape Atlantic League. Now, you also averaged a double-double in basketball for 3 straight seasons, over 1,000 points scored, over 1,000 rebounds. So what you're telling me is you put in a lot of work over the course of 3 years, because to me, you don't put up numbers like that just based on talent. You do that because you put in a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of work in the off season too, especially summertime. It's just not even necessarily playing competitively, because I stayed away from AAU. I stayed away from travel teams. It's just playing, backyard basketball, with your friends, going down the shore and, playing pickup games with random people that you don't even know. It's stuff like that that will make you a better player. So it really comes down to, you have to put the work in all the time, when people aren't watching, and you have to do it at a season.
Now, you said coming down to the shore. Now, I'm originally a Sea Isle City. That's where I grew up. That's where I played on the courts. Where did you go in the summer to play on the courts here at the shore?
Well, my aunt and uncle, they have a place in Sea Isle, so I have played on those Sea Isle courts.
Okay.
But that was more individual work, just shooting around and whatnot. But I've played pickup games in Ocean City.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, well, the people down here, they want to know, when they hear you came down the shore, they want to identify where they've seen Emma Peretti working out down here at the shore. Or maybe there's somebody listening who you crossed them up and you embarrassed them. So
maybe.
Now, you were also a state champion in the shot put. Okay, so as someone who never played track and field or did the shot put myself. Explain to me and the audience what goes into being a state champion in such a specialized technique.
It's a lot of discipline. With shot put and really any throwing event, it takes a lot of strength. So you do have to, be in the weight room a good amount. But even though you could be really, really strong, it takes a lot of technique. So you need to be disciplined enough to, practice all the time, practice your footwork. And there's going to be times where your numbers, the distances that you're throwing doesn't really match up with the work that you've been putting in. And it could be very discouraging, but you got to keep your head up all the time with throwing because it always comes around the corner,
Now, I kept the track for last because you're also going to be working at track at Yale. For those who don't know, Emma Peretti is going to Yale for college. So first of all, congratulations on getting into Yale. That's an accomplishment in and of itself. But talk to me about why Yale and why track.
Track, I love track. Anybody who knows my family, they know we're a very basketball-oriented family. And although I love basketball, I picked up track in middle school, and it's just something that's stuck with me. That's a sport that my family never introduced to me, and it's something that was kind of just something that I had. So I really took a liking to it, and I stuck with it, and turns out I was pretty good at it. Yale University, it is such a beautiful college. I love the people there. I did an official visit back in, I believe it was October. And when I stayed with some of the girls on the track team, and I just had so much fun. The people that go to that school, they're the coolest people you will ever meet in the world.
I don't know if I've ever heard a Ivy League school be referred to as the coolest people in the world, but I'll have to take your word for it. She's Emma Peretti. She is from Hamilton High School, and she is the 2023 Bill Schoppy Memorial Award winner for the top senior female high school athlete of the year for the Cape Atlantic League. Emma, I appreciate you calling in. Best of luck at Yale. Congratulations on a great high school career, and it sounds like you got a lot of great lessons you've learned over the last 4 years you're going to be taking with you to college.
Yep, thank you, and thank you for having me on the show.
And thanks to Emma Peretti for joining me a little bit earlier to have that conversation. And for those who are wondering, the Bill Schoppy Memorial Award male finalist for the High School Senior Athlete of the Year in the Cape Atlantic League, the list of the male finalists that were announced were Sean Burns of Holy Spirit High School, DJ German of Egg Harbor Township High School, Riley Guttles of Ocean City High School, Jack Hogue of Ocean City High, Archie Lawler from Lower Cape May Regional, Jaden Llanos from Holy Spirit High School, Jabril Mace from Mainland Regional, Jim Mantulano from St. Joe's of Hamilton, Mawali Osunye from Mainland Regional, Christian Rendano from Egg Harbor Township High School, also Xander Robert Bogan from Pleasantville High, and Taj Turner from Lower Cape May Regional. And the winner of the Bill Schoppy Memorial Award winner for the Male High School Senior Athlete of the Year was announced earlier today was DJ German. Now, DJ was more than just a 1,000-point scorer in basketball. He also helped lead EHT High to their first Cape Atlantic League championship and first South Jersey championship in basketball. DJ also was a state champion sprinter in track and played football. So congratulations to Emma Peretti and DJ German for being this year's recipients of the Bill Schoppy Memorial Awards, which were created by Prime Events and Tom Williams, along with Schoppy Awards and trophies to honor the top senior athletes in the Cape Atlantic League each year. And of course, that announcement was made earlier today at the Ocean City Music Pier. Back over to the text board at 609-403-0973. That is the text board. Wow, I was not expecting this. Some people who are very happy with the conversation we just had with Emma and the Schoppy trophies. George from Summers Point says, hey, Josh, thanks to you and 97.3 for putting that announcement about the Schoppy trophies and interviewing the winner on air tonight. I think that is great to recognize talented high school athletes. Congratulations to all nominees, male and female. Best of luck in your future. That's from George in Summers Point. Well, thank you, George. I appreciate you appreciating that. Yeah, we do try to highlight the local high school athletes where we can here on 97.3 ESPN. Dan and EHT chimed in, not about the high school athletes, but about the Sixers at 609-403-0973. Dan and EHT says, no Harris and no Harden for the Sixers. The Sixers need to have Embiid, Maxey, and Van Vliet. That is championship material. The question is, can Embiid be fully healthy throughout the postseason? That's from Dan and EHT. Dan, it's a very valid question you asked there at the end. I think the bigger deal for the Sixers is you mentioned Embiid, Maxey, Van Vliet. The problem with the lineup you just gave, those three, is that, that's a very small backcourt. You're asking a Sixers team now to run out there with Maxey and Van Vliet. Both of them are around basically 6'1", 6'2". You're going to have PJ Tucker back next year. I'm assuming Embiid is going to play, right? We're putting Embiid on the floor. So you're a really small team. You're going to need whoever you replace Tobias Harris with to be a multifaceted, multidimensional, multiple position guarding player who's going to make up for the lack of size on your team. That's a lot to ask somebody. That's a lot to ask. That's my only problem with it. I like Fred VanVleet, the player. I just don't know if I want him next to Tyrese Maxey. It's the same thing with Bradley Beal. I think Bradley Beal is only, 5'2", 5'3". Let me double check how tall he is. But yeah, he's 6'4", but he's probably closer to 6'3". So you're asking basically a 6'1" and a 6'3", 6'4" guy to play the backcourt. And they're both lean players. Now, Van Vliet's a thicker body guy, so he can take a little more punishment. And the big deal with Harden was, for a lot of us, we looked at Harden as, he's about 6'5", 6'6", but he's a thick 6'5", 6'6". He's not skinny. He's got some girth to him. He's got some muscle. And Harden came in the best shape of his life this offseason into last season. So you went in to this season saying, hey, at least the guys we have are different sizes. If you have too many guys of the same size or too short, now you're going to be taken advantage of by a team like Milwaukee, like Boston, with their size. That's my only concern with that. Sam in Avalon chimes in at 609-403-0973, says, hey, Josh, unpopular opinion, but I believe we should clean house with the Sixers team. Joel showed his true colors every playoffs. He doesn't pick his teammates up. He never seems to get the job done. He's never healthy. I enjoyed watching Tony Roten and Isaiah Cannon over watching this team fail to get to each conference finals every year. Clean house, build around Maxey. That's Sam from Avalon. Well, Sam, first of all, I don't think your opinion is unpopular. I think your opinion is valid. You came up and said, look, this is how I feel about this. There is a way the Sixers can do what you're saying, but it can't be this year. And I've explained this before, and I'll give it to you here, Sam in Avalon, and you maybe can chime in either today or tomorrow what you think. The Sixers, when they traded away Al Horford and dumped his contract, they traded the 2025 first-round pick. It is top 6 protected, which means you can get that pick back if you have one of the 6 worst records in the NBA for the 2024-2025 season. So here's my suggestion, Sam from Avalon. Go all in for one more year. AJ from Cape May Courthouse says, go after Damian Lillard at all costs, right? Go in and get somebody. Go all in. Trade Tobias Harris. Trade Jaden Springer. Use all the assets you got. Get a sign and trade for James Harden. Do everything and anything for 1 year. And if it doesn't work, then clean house and build around Maxey. Because then that will guarantee you gave it one more shot with this current structure. You gave it one more chance with Embiid and company. And then you go into the 2024-2025 season with a 1 year, tank, get that top 6 pick back, draft somebody of substance, or trade the pick. I don't care. Who knows? Maybe you can get somebody and trade that pick. I think that's what you would do, Sam and Avalon, if you want to do that. But cleaning house right now is not valuable for this team because what you're doing is you trade away your 2024 first round pick. If you're bad this upcoming year, you're giving that team a better pick. You're helping a team that you don't want to help. You should be only helping yourself. That's how I look at it. Thanks everybody for texting in. Thanks Bryan Toporek for joining the show and Emma Peretti for calling in. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Catch you tomorrow.